This channel supports 8-Bit Salute and Operation Supply Drop. Please help us raise money to help support our men and women in service throughout the world. Operation Supply Drop, making fun where there is none. What up, everybody? This is your boy Black Magus, and I couldn't sleep, so I had to gush about Narcos. Narcos Season 1. I didn't really talk about it on my channel. I mentioned it about how good it was during streams and stuff like that, but I never dedicated a video to it. But I have to now for Narcos Season 1 and Season 2 because it is a fan-fucking-tastic TV show. Netflix, I don't know what it is, but you know how people celebrate the Marvel movies and talk about how great they are and how well put together they are, how well done they are? Netflix kills Marvel. And the funny thing is, a couple of Netflix's hottest shows are Marvel properties. And I honestly like to think that Netflix has more influence than Marvel does over them, because it seems that every goddamn show that Netflix puts out is just golden. It is just golden. But that's another rant. Maybe I'll do a video on Netflix shows overall. We're talking about Narcos. So, if you don't know what Narcos is, it is a show that covers the history of one Pablo Escobar. They go through the tale of his rise to power, his reign of terror, and his eventual fall. Now, I put the message up in the beginning of this video, but I'm going to say it now for you guys. There will be spoilers in this video. I'm going to try to do a spoiler-free version of it, just to, for those of you who just want an overview. But this one, I'm going all in. I have to go all in first before I can do the spoiler-free video. So keep that in mind when you see these two videos come up. Make sure you pick the right one. Make sure to read the goddamn title, please. Anyway, so the show's incredible. From the beginning, you know the shit's going to be wild when it opens up with, you see a bunch of people hanging out in a nightclub, partying, and all of a sudden you just see these people with guns, like artillery, walking up to the spot, and they just start blasting in it, basically. And you hear one of the main protagonists, a DEA agent, they call him Murphy. He's loosely based on real people in the DEA, the people who were helping the Colombian government chase down Pablo Escobar. And that's the thing about this show. A lot of the people that you see, with the exception of like Pablo Escobar, his family, key members of his gang, I mean, there are some people who show up in the show on all sides of the field that are real, but you see quite a few people who are loosely based on certain people. In particular, the people chasing Pablo Escobar seem to be more loosely based on an amalgamation of people more than being real people. But you know, you hear Murphy giving this narration about you know, how people shouldn't judge him and the things he do, because he's going to let you know what's going on in the TV show. Like, and you get a taste of what's going on when you see these people just get fucking blasted. Like, woo! I swear it was wild. It was incredibly wild how they got like fucked up like that. But man, let's just go in past beyond that. Like, but that was just like that moment when you know the show is going to be wild. So they show Pablo Escobar. They go over his rise and things like that. And as you go through the season of Season 1, they give, like, you know, they give you personal connection type stuff, as well as they go ahead and they go into the history of the drug trade at the time when he was in power, how things were crazy. I mean, this man wasn't just pushing kilos of coke. At his height, he was pushing tons a day, making upwards to $60 million a day. He was the fourth richest person on the planet Earth when he was alive. Um, that's a lot of fucking money off of cocaine, people. A lot of fucking money. And he was just the ingenious way that they had it set up. They were willing to drop like 10 tons of coke to the DEA, having them capture their boats and planes and stuff like that, like dummy planes and boats. 10 tons, like tons, had dummy coke on it for them. Like, well, it wasn't dummy coke; it was real coke. But they were willing to give up those to push like way more weight into the country. Like for every 10 tons they lost, they probably got like 150 into the country. It was that fucking sick. He was that fucking like, kids, I don't encourage you to get into this business, but it has to be said, as sick and sadistic as this guy is, you have to acknowledge the fact that he knew what he was doing, and he ran shit to perfection. Now, the thing about Pablo Escobar is that it's hubris that kind of got him. Hubris, and I guess he was a little off. Had a chip on his shoulder all the time, things like that. He had a stabilizing agent in his cousin Gustavo, but as season one goes along, even Gustavo couldn't keep him into check. And he had all these like killers who they were just as wild as he were. They were all about running through and like fucking up people, like Poison and Lakika and Blackie. It's funny because it was like the one like black Colombian in the gang. What do they call him? Fucking Blackie. What the fuck? But I mean, and these characters were wild. They were wild. They would do whatever the fuck. I mean, he had them kill so many people, run up to cops and murder them like it was nothing. And like Poison and Lakika were keeping count with each other on how many people they bodied, and like fighting over that shit. It was like, what the fuck? You know, it's amazing. But you got to see some of the stuff, like you learned like details about his infrastructure as far as who worked for him, different people who put him on to different things, and how their downfall went. Of course, a lot of this wasn't 100% accurate. Of course, they have to like fudge the numbers for TV, for entertainment purposes, such as some of the people. What was his name? I can't think of his name, but one of the guys, the way that he died, it didn't go down. Gustavo being one of them. His death didn't go down the way that it did. Gustavo was killed by a group called Search Block, who was led by a guy named Carrillo on the show, who wasn't a real person. He was loosely based on a real person, Colonel Hugo Martinez, who, ironically enough, showed up sometime in the second season as a totally different person. If you've ever watched this show, you know what I mean about totally different person, because the Hugo Martinez they had on the show was a much more subdued, by the numbers type of guy, whereas Carrillo was like, fuck it, these guys go hard, we gonna go hard. You can't just come at somebody like Pablo Escobar with kid gloves going by the rules. You gotta get dirty, and he was way fucking willing to get dirty. The way he fucked up Gustavo and then shot up his body to say, well, they won't, because his buddy was like, we can't leave his body out here all beaten up like that. What are they gonna think? They're gonna think we just beat him and tortured him. So he shot up the body. It's like, there, tell him that he got into a gunfight with us. It's just shit like that. It got shot up. It was like Carrillo. He despised fucking Pablo Escobar, and Pablo was like, he despised them. Like, they had real hate, but it was great to see go down. Murphy had a partner named Pena, and Pena, I'm sorry, it's Pena, forgive me. Him and Pena, like, they were involved in a lot of stuff, and they were kind of, Murphy was more of like like he was the narrator in the beginning of the show and throughout the show, he was kind of just like that linchpin character that everything that happened revolved around. He just happened to be involved in some capacity with just about all the events so they could tie it to the real history. Um, that was the capacity of that character, but he was a really good character. He's a really good character, really good actor. Everybody on the show does phenomenal things on that show. Season 1, the way it goes through the paces of them killing Gustavo, killing off a couple of key members of Pablo's gang, catching them. The relationship with the Cali cartel, you get introduced to the Cali cartel, which, if you know your history, they were one of the bigger cocaine pushers in history as well. Not as big as Pablo. I don't think anybody will ever surpass or equal what he did, especially being this one guy who was able to pull together all these different people and do so much business. He was fucking ridiculous. But you get to see the ridiculous of Pablo Escobar negotiating with the government to build his own fucking prison, only turning himself in just to like live in the fucking palace of a prison. It looked like a dump on the outside, but he had all types of shit, crazy food, nice luxuries, women brought to him for him and his boys to fuck. It was fucking like ridiculous. This man was off the chain, and of course it fell apart at the end of season 1 because they had to move towards what history established, which was, well, he got forced out of the prison. He had to go on the run, and that was the crux of season 2, where he was basically just on the run, trying to constantly stay ahead of law enforcement, keep out of the way, while they're chasing him down. Carrillo got sent away in season 1, but they brought him back to chase down Pablo. One of the highlights of season 2 was when Carrillo was a couple of them with Carrillo actually. One, he shot that fucking kid in the head. Carrillo didn't give a fuck. I mean, when I said that this guy was like, we have to go hard, he gave no fucks the same way that Pablo gave no fucks. Like, he killed one of the spotters to prove a point, and then gave a bullet to one of the other kids who was around and said, take this to Pablo and tell him this is for him. I'm going to deliver it to him. So later in the season, Carrillo gets ambushed with some false information, and he's shot up, and Pablo comes in and he gives him a bullet back in his leg by shooting it at him, and then he kills Carrillo. And it's like, when I saw them kill Carrillo, I was like, well, this isn't right. And this is where season 2 actually went a bit more off the rails than season 1 with historical facts, because one, Carrillo dying, the leader of Search Blog did not die. Hugo Martinez never died, but of course Carrillo dying was their avenue to introduce the real Martinez. Now, fun fact, all the like crazy shit, now I'm sure they fabricated a lot of the crazy shit that they had Carrillo do in the show. Some may have been true, who knows, but the type of person that Carrillo was, that was Hugo Martinez. He was that guy who was looked at as, people who looked at him like, yo, he was effective, but your methods kind of scare me, type thing. It was he had quiet approval / open disapproval of some of his methods. They liked what he was doing, but they kind of didn't. You know what I mean? You know how it is. It's like he does the dirty shit that none of the government officials are willing to do or touch, but they don't want to be seen as advocates of that shit. You know what I mean? That was Hugo Martinez. He was that guy that he did what he needed to do to get Pablo fucking Escobar. Including turning slightly a blind eye to Los Pepes, which was a great introduction. You got introduced to these guerrillas who they were fighting against communists, but they were brought in by drug traffickers who were against Pablo to help bring him down and kill people. And government kind of like, we're like, we don't like what they're doing publicly, but we're not gonna say anything really because we kind of like what they're doing, because they're helping us fucking tear him apart, and they just made between them, the search block chasing him down, his family bugging. His mom was I hate his fucking mom. That fucking bitch. Like, one, her reaction when Gustavo died, I understood she was upset, but beating the hell out of Lakika like that, come on. He didn't mean anything. And then the way she talked to his wife and how smug she was about her son being such a great man and all that. Like, bitch, you know your kid's a monster. Come on. The fuck out of here. And then how she fucked up and she wanted to go to church so bad that she ignored Pablo, knowing that they're being chased down by like a radical group, his rivals, and the fucking government and police and the DEA. This bitch is gonna say, I want to go to church, drawing some of Los Peppers to them, and end up having him lose men. It was like, yep, fucking. And then she's gonna go, it's not my fault. Tell your wife it's not my fault. She can't say it's my fault. Bitch, if I was him, I was like, no, Mom, I'm not gonna tell my wife that, because it is your fucking fault. I told you, don't go. We're being fucking hunted. What the fuck did you think would happen? Like, did you not consider the fact that someone may recognize you? Why would you put your grandchildren in danger like this? What the fuck is wrong with you? I would have I probably wouldn't curse at my mom, but I would have definitely went off because, yeah, no, that was stupid of her, and she knew it was stupid, but she gonna act like it's everybody else's fault around her. Fuck you, hoe. And in the end, it's like you see how just in real life she actually was that fucked up, because a lot of what they did in the show was they intermingled video clips of real life, and it's crazy because in a lot of cases it was amazing how almost one-to-one people playing certain characters looked like the people they were playing. Like the guy who was playing Pablo Escobar, he wasn't necessarily one-to-one, but he was a good version of Pablo. President Guevara was a really good version of himself. Pablo's mom was a really good version of herself. A lot of people in the mix, even Murphy, when it came to the end shot they showed of Pablo's capture, the picture of the guy that they had, he, again, not one-to-one, but Murphy was a good mock-up of an 80s DEA agent who happened to be there. So, yeah, they overall, the show is just fantastic. The hunt for Pablo was crazy when they chased him on the rooftops and how they killed him. That was fucking wild. It's just, but see, and here's the biggest spoiler of all. That's why I put the spoiler alert. So please, I hope if you're already at this point and you've heard spoilers, here's season 3 spoiler. Yes, I do believe there's going to be a season 3, because it's funny, because when they were doing the whole hunt for Pablo, and I was like, are they going to end this with him dying, or are they going to try to flesh it out and stretch it, or is this it? Is this going to be just a 2-season thing? But they ended with, like, in between the season, one of the agents, Pena, he had been cooperating with Los Pepes and helping them out, and he kind of got exposed a little bit for what he was doing by a CEA agent. So CEA agent arranged it for him to be shipped back to America. He went back to America and was put under review. While they were reviewing him, they were asking him questions, and at the end, they ended it with, so, Agent Pena, tell us, how much do you know about the Cali cartel? And if you've been watching the season, you know the Cali cartel, basically, once Pablo went out, they pretty much snatched the rest of his holdings from his wife. They celebrated, and they were like, yo, we own shit, because we already moved. They moved in on Pablo's territory in Miami. Now they were like, we run the drug trafficking right now. So fuck it, we doing our thing. But little do they know, the United States government. Well, now that they were done with Pablo, they were like, next, how you doing? So season 3, we have a really good setup for them to go after Cali Cartel, which again, this is real. Cali Cartel were a huge drug trafficking cartel from Colombia. It was like they were the heir to Pablo's throne, without a doubt. They had been around just as long, if not longer than Pablo, but they weren't as strong as he was. He controlled things. But after Pablo's fall, they became like the thing. They became the biggest boy on the block. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to do that, because you got multiple people that they could target that are in control. Of course, there is a quote unquote big boss, so to speak, but you still have a couple of people that they can go after. We ran into a couple of them, Pacho, Rodriguez, him and his brother. It's going to be interesting to see what the breakdown. And it's funny, again, dude who plays Rodriguez, he sort of kind of looks like the real Rodriguez. So it's going to be crazy, because it took them a while to get the Cali Cartel as well. Excuse me. So actually, the Cali Cartel, they could stretch for 2 or 3 seasons with that one, I'm sure, because I don't think they went down until the early 2000s, late 90s, and the Pablo Escobar story ended like 93, 94. So you get a good chunk of time to deal with them as well. Mind you, they did pretty much 10, 15 years of Pablo Escobar in a couple of seasons, but this seems like it's going to be a more complex story to tell, in my opinion, because of the depth and structure. They seem to be they're more of a like where Pablo was in charge of the Medellin cartel. It was mostly all about Pablo in real life as well. It was all about Pablo and what he did. Sure, the DA and stuff wanted to go after some other people, but they weren't as consequential. Pablo controlled everything, whereas I feel like while Rodriguez kind of controlled the Medellin cartel, the people under him had a lot more influence than the people under Pablo Escobar ever had. So I could see them trying to pick them like piece by piece and stretching this out over at least 3 seasons. But we'll see. I can't wait. Love Narcos. Great writing, great acting. Netflix got another hit on their hands. Damn. They're making the best TV out right now, bar none, in my opinion. I cannot think of any other place that's putting together original content as good as Netflix are. Their only weakness probably is the movie department. Not all their movies are hits, but as far as shows, they're unbeatable right now. They're ridiculous. But anyway, woo! Finally, Gus, almost half an hour. God damn. Anyway, as always, you guys feel free to hit me up. Let me know what you think, and I'll holler at you later. This your boy Black Makers, and I'm out. Deuces.